The recording.
All right, all set.
All right, we can call to order at 5:18 still. Well, it's good timing, because at this point in our meeting, we usually invite any guests to speak, to say what their name is and why you might be attending, which is not a problem at all.
My name is Sandra Denman, and my hometown is Bath, Maine. But I'm interested in the postcard that was sent about a community center.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested in what your plans already have happened and
Great.
what might happen.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's good information. Is that the yellow card that we recently put out?
I might add, Maine being my hometown, but I'm living in Topsham now. And I lived in Oregon for 25 years. So I
Great.
know what that has to offer, what Oregon does, and what your plans are.
Great. Okay.
Nice.
Well, we'll try to bring you up to speed as best we can. Do we want to do that in a nutshell right now, or? Great.
Mark, Kathy's not online, right?
She's done.
Okay.
So essentially, we've been a group, not this group, but a couple of different combinations of committee members for the past, what is it, 4 years now? Or is it 5?
This is our
Yeah.
timeline.
Oh,
No,
2019. 2019.
Yeah, since 2019.
And now we're 2025, so you've done a lot.
Yeah, but to be honest, we've come a long way in the previous, the last 2 years, to be honest.
And this is the first postcard I've ever received.
Okay. So in the past, we have put information out online and via emails and mailings and newspaper articles as far as how to become aware of what we're up to, essentially, and all of the information is also available online on the town Park and Rec.
I don't go online, so.
Well, to be honest, we can give you a copy of our timeline at some point. Maybe Allison has one.
This is the first I've received.
Okay, great.
I'm glad
Well,
I
I'm
got
glad
to.
that you've received it. That's wonderful news for us to hear that it's reaching out.
Do you use email, Sandra?
No, I
No.
don't do anything that's.
Nothing online?
Other
Okay.
than read and write and.
Okay, great, great. We'll make sure that we get you all the information you need.
I can do a quick flyby though, if you'd like.
Yeah. We can do just a quick verbal update for you, and Allison can give us something to read.
That's our abbreviated
I don't want to
timeline.
introduce ourselves.
We just got the idea of a community center.
Sure.
It's a good idea. I grew up knowing that Topsham was a farming community.
Oh, yeah.
So
Right. Okay, well, we can actually start with introducing ourselves if you'd like.
I'm Kim Fry.
Kim, in your last.
Kim Fry.
Hi, okay, thank you.
I'm Heather Rogers.
Hi, Heather.
I am Steve Kessler. I've been in Topsham for 14 years now.
And what is your name? I didn't hear.
Steve Kessler, Kessler.
Steve.
And my name is Lynn Soroy, and I grew up in Topsham, so I haven't moved far.
I'm Allison Carey Blay. My family, the Carey family, has lived in Topsham for many generations.
For many generations.
Yes, Carey, C-A-R-Y, on the Middlesex Road.
And I'm Leslie Byrne, and I've been a member since the beginning.
Since how long?
Since this started in 2019, I've been a member. And Mark's with us.
Mark Waltz, the town manager.
Hello.
Hello.
So this committee we've been a committee for many years now. There's been a lot of changes, and recently we've had our second survey of the town. The first one was in 2021, I believe it was, and the second one within the past year. And it's it's kind of a needs assessment to see what the town is interested in, if they are. This was never a committee saying we have to have a community center. It's more been, does the town want it and does it need it? So that's really what we're trying to figure out. We've been taking a lot of the steps moving forward that the town does need one and they also want one. So we're taking the steps.
So those are two, you need one and you want one.
Yes, that's what we've come to find out. Yes, we've definitely heard on the other side of things as well. So we're obviously exploring all the reasons as to why a community member would not want a community center. We also understand the reasons why a community member may not want the community center, but the only reasons we've really seen are tax increases.
Yes, that's what it's gonna say, property.
And that's understandable for everybody.
Yes.
Yes. So we're at the phase of where we're balancing the needs versus the costs, et cetera. We're exploring two potential places where it could land in the town that are really good spots that would come rent-free, if you will. They're currently owned by the state or the town of Topsham, these two locations.
They're owned by the state and by the town of Topsham.
Correct.
Actually, both owned by the
Both by
town.
the town, yeah.
So that one is owned by the town? Okay. So there are two good locations that are owned by the town currently.
And where are they?
One is off the Foreside Road where the current fields are
Where the current,
that we have there. And the other one is a section of property that's between the Highlands, the football fields over there and the bypass. There's a section,
football field by the Highlands.
Yep.
So
Adjacent.
Mount Arad,
No, adjacent to the fairgrounds, you know where the Topsham Fair is held?
I
It's,
live across the street, yes.
oh, okay, so it's right off the bypass there, adjacent to the Topsham Fairgrounds.
I'll have to confess, I've lived here about 9 years and I really don't know Topsham. So, Forsyth Road doesn't mean a thing to me.
oh, okay, all right.
It's where the library
If you
is,
want,
yeah.
I can combine this with an update on the fairground stuff, and explain a little more.
Great, let's do that.
I don't want to interrupt your plans.
No, questions are
I'm
great.
going to have two places, and I thought, oh, maybe by the, American Legion is.
Correct, yes, that's where Foreside fields
and
are.
That's where you're thinking about?
Within the area of that, not exactly next to that, but near there.
Not across.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes, across.
Yeah.
So, you know, the playing field, the baseball field is across the street from the Legion. Up above it, there's a hill. Up at the top of that hill, there's a lacrosse field, and there's about 13 acres of woods. So one of the potential sites is next to the lacrosse field in those woods. And there's enough wooded buffer so that Arbor Avenue and Old Tavern and Old Farm would still have something protected.
I know as far as the field and recreation period, so. But trails, if you,
There are some that lead to there, so an advantage of that site is you could, from a lot of our neighborhoods, like Bay Park, Arbor Avenue, neighborhoods up Middlesex Road, they could come trails and get to the community center if it were there. Other advantages of that site are it's close to water lines and sewer lines, so it wouldn't cost a lot of money to bring those things in. And then the other site that the town owns is we have a 20-acre piece of land that sits between the Topsham Fair and the 196 bypass. So
okay, so you go through the fairgrounds or you go through the Highlands and you approach 196 and lights and across the way is Highland Green.
yeah, so if you're coming from, say, the Elm Street entrance, and you go into the fairgrounds, you come to an area with a big parking lot just before the football field. If you look to the far right, there's a tall line of tall pines, about probably 60 feet high. Behind those pines, it's all wooded between that and the railroad tracks where the highway are. So we have a 20-acre piece there that the state of Maine gave to the town, which was leftover land from the bypass. And it has conditions on it though. The conditions are that it be used for civic purposes or community purposes as a picnic area or rest stop. We've gone to Maine Department of Transportation, we've asked if they can remove the picnic area or rest stop language, so that we could just potentially use it for a community center. And they're in the process of doing that. And then the other thing with that site is we need a way to get to it, because it's landlocked, because we wouldn't be able to build like an on-ramp to the bypass or something. So this is the update part. We met with the fairgrounds again last week, the board of directors, and discussed with them what we'd like to be able to do, some of the advantages for both the town and the fairgrounds potentially, if this was able to have a community center there. Another advantage of that site is you may have read in the papers that they're talking about taking the railroad tracks that go from Topsham all the way up to at least Gardner, and then if a bridge are fixed Augusta, turn those into a trail for bike and pedestrian use at the moment. If that went through, this piece of property fronts on those railroad tracks. So the parking lot for the community center could also be a way to access those railroad tracks. And the underpass or underneath the bypass could be used eventually to connect to the schools and to Highland Green. So people from that side of town could have a nice, safe way to get to the community center.
And they have wonderful trails at Highland Green.
Yes, so this could all get connected. So at the meeting last week, I'm told the vote was 2 to 3, where 2 people said yes, they would like to work with us for sure. 2 said no, they don't, and then 3 said would depend on the final plan, but they're open to continuing to consider it. So they said, please leave the fairground site under consideration and keep talking to us more as things progress. So
Okay.
that was the good news update I had.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, I'm interested in the trails. My grandson is building trails as we speak in Beartooth Mountains in Montana.
That's
So
wonderful.
I've heard a lot about building trails.
So obviously now you're aware of our potential locations and we've gotten that far. Yes, so we've actually entered the design phase and we're currently right in the middle of that and finding out what a potential cost would be, but also exploring fundraising opportunities as well.
I'd like to ask another question. Are
Mhm.
you gearing to all ages?
Oh, yes, yes. All ages, absolutely.
So it's wide open
Yeah, sure is.
once you find where you're going to be.
Right. And if you ever are able to take the time to maybe watch a couple of the video, well, you wouldn't because it would be online, but you would see that in all of our meetings that we have, we do consider the senior citizen sort of market as well.
You know I'm a senior citizen.
Well, it's beautiful blonde hair.
It was red at one time.
Well, you're enhanced.
I'm happy to have to review, but I don't want to interrupt your meeting.
No, it's perfectly okay because it acts as a great review for us as well. So we have noticed that we would like a gymnasium. The town would like, I don't mean just us. The needs asked for a pool that is both therapeutic and competitive. They would like a fitness center of some sort, as well as working spaces, meeting rooms, conference rooms, et cetera, pickleball as well.
And a walking track.
And a walking track is probably one of the top ones.
Pickleball, but tennis courts. My 2 grandsons, one I just spoke about, and the other one, who just finished his first year in kinesiology at Bama, University of Alabama. They would like to play, they wanted to play tennis.
Mhm.
They live in Turner. There are no tennis courts. That made me aware. Coming from Bath, we have tennis courts.
Mhm.
We actually do in Topsham.
Where?
The ones behind Mount Ararat, the town help fund, so those are open for public use as well.
Oh, I'm glad I asked that question. Thank you.
And they're even lined for pickleball as well.
And you are.
And they're lined for pickleball as well. And there's, I believe, 6 courts there. So quite a bit of courts that are used by the middle school and the high school for their teams, but
I know about going to Mount Era with the two boys.
Yes.
Track, pole vaulting and soccer.
But one of the big pluses I think we have is we're trying to design something with the room to expand as well. And area community centers such as the Bath Y, you're from Bath, they started with a certain size facility and they've been expanding. Most recently, they expanded their gymnasium as well and made updates to that as well. So that is a profitable program over there.
I've asked many newcomers to Bath, what brought you to Bath? What do you like about Bath? Why did you want to be here? 2, the library. Well, we have an excellent library in Topsham too. And YMCA.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's really good info.
And that is just going gangbusters.
It really is.
So it's a friend of mine now, he's recently deceased. It's his brainchild, we got that started.
Really? Great. Well, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. And feel free to
Well, this is great. Topsham's a growing community and when, where, what, so on. I'm very interested in your plans.
great.
Thank you.
Can I ask what brought you to Topsham?
Well, it wasn't the Highlands, but it might be in another year. I'm still getting acquainted. It's very hard to move from one little community to another when there's about 10 or 12 miles difference. I still have many feet in Bath, my hometown.
Great.
Certainly, you have land and you have young people and a great school system, so many pluses, and it's easy to get to the airport if you need to.
True. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, you caught us on a night where we have a couple of things to update to kind of catch up because we have another meeting in 2 weeks from now, but hopefully we can keep you up to speed the best we can.
Well, I don't mean to take over the meeting, but I really am interested in what you're doing.
Great. Thank you. So that was our invitation. Are there any changes to this agenda?
I added the section, the quick update from the fairgrounds under an addition to the agenda. So I just listed that out under addition to the agenda.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Since it wasn't technically on there.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. A motion?
Oh. Motion to accept.
Remember that was your job.
Got it. Motion to approve.
All in favor? Great. And now review discussion from Harrison presentation. All right, this is really what we wanted to talk about this evening. Do you want me to, I have the numbers that I talked about for, these are really interesting numbers, and I'll just do the Bath Y numbers I have. And I'll just throw it out there. Is everybody okay with that? I'm just gonna.
Go for it.
Great. And actually, we're gonna start in Wiscasset. Cost for the swim team, and these prices have not changed in the past 2 years. Wiscasset swim team cost is $350 to be on the swim team. A standard youth membership is $252. If you want to be on the swim team, you still have to pay the standard youth membership of $252. So that would be a total of $602 for a membership to be part of a competitive team as well as a normal membership. That's per year.
Are all of those fees going directly to their community center, or is that going to some type of like?
That is the Wiscasset Community Center, I believe. You might know a little bit more. Is run as a community center alone. That's a good question.
I didn't know if like being part of a competitive team, some of the money had to go to some other organization.
That I
Right.
don't know.
Something
Right.
like that.
And that in comparison to the Bath YMCA, it's about $200 difference. The Bath Y is around $800, which is $300 for a youth membership and $550 to be on the swimming team. I will add that they have 200 members of their swim team, and the Wiscasset has 40. So you do the math on the 200 members of just the swim team. If you're a member of the swim team, the usage of the pool is 2 nights a week for the youngins, 3 nights a week for middle schoolers, and 5 nights a week for the high schoolers. When I say night, that is a 45-minute practice. There's also 7 meets that are included with this, but there's 0 fees if you paid the $800 to be a member. If not, you have to pay outside fees to compete, or even just to, you have to pay to compete against the Bath Y. So if you're a gardener, you would have to pay to enter their facility as well, unless you're a member of the YMCA. So,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Do they run those fees a school year or?
No, I'll get there.
Okay,
We are,
I didn't mean to jump.
no, it's okay. I kind of jumped ahead too. There's only 2 coaches for 200 kids, and they run October to March. That is their season. This does not include the concessions they have for every single meet. And they also have a swim-a-thon fundraiser, which never raises less than $20,000 for their fundraiser.
Sorry, was that Bath or was that?
This is the Bath YMCA.
Question,
Yes.
regarding the youth, what age group do they start?
So that's a very good question. I believe what I had seen, I don't have it, but I believe it was 5 years old. They don't offer lessons over 6. Does that sound right? 6 years old?
Offer lessons?
Yeah. Then it's a really
Don't know
interesting,
about that.
yeah,
There used to be some swim things for like real little kids.
right.
Yeah, I know there's definitely, that might.
I don't know the
be
answer
some
to that,
that are very
Yeah,
close,
I've-
so I don't know.
I know like with private lessons, they do younger kids. I've seen there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um,
Starting at 5 sounds about right for the competition.
Yeah,
So that's a good question. We can find that out.
I'm missing some of this because you don't talk into your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I ask questions. Thinking about small age group. I know we started our girls skiing, swimming, because they have private swimming lessons. In Oregon, people have swimming pools in their yards, so up there in the summer. But for safety reasons,
sure.
but the why, and since they have so many swim teams, that's a good way to start toddlers swimming. And you would, during the summer, have school and high school kids looking for jobs.
Mm.
That's something to be considered if you have to put money into a pool. Well, we said we're going to have pools.
Yeah, that's definitely a consideration. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Freeport. This was kind of hard to figure out, but it's $99 for an entire house to become a member, $93 for 2 adults, $68 for 1 adult, and $42 for a youth facility membership. And from what I found, this is not including the use of the pool. But outside YMCA, it's $12 per day during the week and $15 per day on the weekend. and I'm only pausing because I'm listening to Alice. It's a type of way. Bowdoin College, for our high school potentially to rent their facility, each meet is around 2 hours. And the cost is around $400 per hour. And it's around $100 per hour for practices. And the high school kids practice up to 5 days per week.
Bowdoin College, my grandsons participated in indoor track during vacation period, when Bowdoin was not drawing on their students. They charged $5 each. So whenever I went, it was $5. Some people paid more, but that was the
Was that for a pool or to use the walking?
Sounds like it was to watch.
it was to use the track.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I don't know about pool and everything.
Right.
My own experience.
Was that to be a spectator when your grandchildren were running? To be a spectator? I remember paying as well. That's a good reminder. Yep.
Well, I believe this is why Bowdoin charges much more per hour for meets, because he hasn't answered me yet whether they charge admission. So.
They are going to use the facilities.
Right. And the reason why we were exploring what it costs at another college, because obviously we would like to have our high school rent from us. And I think they would rather do that. So those are the numbers that I found locally.
Okay.
I got most of it.
Okay.
I got the general gist.
Trying to remember, when I was speaking to somebody, what did they say? Oh, they did say, they mentioned the Bath Y, and that it seems the community, first of all, they really grasp the Y down there, and the community as a whole uses it, and everybody knows each other's name there, is what they were saying is what's great about it. And so they know each other from start to finish. And I'll just add that when I attended, well, I didn't attend preschool, but when my children attended preschool, we became really close with all of the parents that were attending the same preschool, which was only about 10 or 12 kids. So I couldn't imagine what a community center would do to a community if we were to have that. So it seems like they're doing a good job over there.
When I was a teenager in Bath, we had, this is just after World War II, we had a community center. It was upstairs in the building across from Brackett's Market on Front Street.
Mm.
And it basically was a teenage center. And they had dancers, weekend for the teens, they had ping pong tables. It was very limited to what they could offer. But it was a place for kids to go with supervision. Now that has the youth center. And it's next to the middle school and just beyond all our athletic fields at Morris.
That's one of the things that we've addressed if we have a community center, because, you know, kids don't have places to go and hang out in Topsham. You know, there's no bowling alleys. I mean, there's a movie theater, but movies aren't playing after school. So they don't really have a place to go that's safe and supervised so they can hang out.
Yes.
And so as we've been doing all of our research and surveys, we are keeping our eye on the community center, the potential community center, to serve all of the community, whether it's kids, preteens, teens, seniors. We want a place that's accessible and potentially offers something for everyone of all ages. So,
That's good.
yeah,
Some of the information that was provided to me was that the Y is trying to become their own monopoly for swimming. And it's basically, they've turned it into a cash cow, and that's really all they consider it as. So they're making it where unless you are a Y member, it's very difficult for you to compete versus swim teams that compete out of the YMCA or dubbed YMCA, I guess it would be.
interesting.
Yeah, so
But
it's,
difficult to pay, but also is it a way that people can earn points by participating,
mm,
helping with different functions and so on.
mhm.
Right.
Sometimes, and again, if you're involved, become more interested.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yep.
So I guess that's sort of, it's just information I wanted to offer for competitive versus therapeutic, recreational,
Yeah.
which I think we still need to stick with, considering both.
Yes, I think so too.
I appreciate the local numbers that you provided. I was trying to do some research online, and what I was finding was that competitive pools do tend to bring in more money, but then again, would probably cost more to operate as well. But, you know, overall, I think it would be a bigger revenue source. But I also do like the benefits of the therapeutic pool as well. So I definitely would like to just see what Mark has to offer with the design and layout to see how we could incorporate both.
I
So,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah, yep. Okay,
I think we can move on to the funding discussion.
Well, I think that, and I could be wrong, but my impression was after the last meeting, Mark left with the, please tell me what you guys want me to do with it. And so I think that one of the things we have to decide tonight is exactly option A, option B, absolutely include, break it into phases so that that's what he comes back with when we meet again in a couple of weeks.
Mm,
Because if we don't tell him, I think we're gonna end up having the same round robin conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago.
so there I go. Okay, did we want to do that on 4 or number 8 of the agenda?
I think we should get through the rest of the stuff.
Yeah,
and
for the sake of time.
go- Yeah, yeah,
So I had it under, so I'm gonna take out next steps for TCCC under
Yeah.
bullet point number 4, and we
Yep.
can do it down at the bottom.
Yep.
That works for everything.
okay. So do we want to go right to 5?
Yes, we're gonna go right to the funding discussion real quick.
Okay, potential estimate for fundraising consultant, I don't have. Sorry about that. The lead that we had from our funding meeting, Evan did an introductory email, and unfortunately, her name is Ronnie, is committed to Six Rivers. So,
She's committed to it.
she's a private fundraising consultant. And so she's already working on a company called Six Rivers. They're the people who bought the old Roller World and were trying to fundraise to turn it into a ice hockey rink. So she's committed to working with them. So that really kind of presents the conflict of interest.
But it isn't that far from Topsham.
Right, but yeah, it's just up the road. With the actual location of Six Rivers, their building, is that what you mean? Yeah, they're just, I don't know, what, 3 miles up the road from the
So we
school?
work together.
Well,
Maybe not.
Considered that.
They had offered that to us, whether
Yeah.
we wanted to work. The problem is they only have a 4-acre site and it's got wetlands on it. And one of the things the select board had said is they wanted to make sure that if we do pursue a community center, it wants to be in a big enough site that it could be expanded, you know, so that we could have the gym and if not immediately, at some point, the pool and it's, you're gonna need a good sized parking lot. And there just isn't enough space at that site. The other thing is we'd really like the building to be within the area of water and sewer, which there isn't out there. And we thought the community center to use a decent area that you could get to just by driving. Both of these sites, you could bike and walk to as well as driving, more centrally located. Both have these other advantages I talked about, whether it be beside the railroad tracks for this trail that they come, or next to all our existing fields. They both make so much more sense than putting our community center on the other side of the highway in the middle of, maybe not middle of nowhere, but, so if we're gonna spend considerable money on this, we wanna make sure that we get the biggest bang for our buck. And
Yes.
these sites can be worth it.
About 7 o'clock, was it?
Others that are interested in community center. Also thinking in terms of age, seniors, Brunswick has a great people plus,
yes.
but it's all during the day.
Mhm.
And what about others who would like to have after work
Right.
during their work day? An evening, and I'm thinking, what a lot of adults like to do. Well, I'm thinking about games,
Mhm.
puzzles, cribbage, mahjong, bridge,
Mm-hmm.
so that groups could form and be adults.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Lynn, quick follow-up question.
Yes.
Even if Ronnie's committed to Six Rivers, she couldn't give us just a general estimate on.
Well, she said I could reach out, but I haven't specifically asked her for a number yet. That being said, I sent an email to Mark Lee because that was on my list of to do. For him to potentially provide, some fundraising consultant options, and I have not heard back from him yet.
Okay.
So whether he brings that to the next meeting or he answers me, I'll let you know. So I just went online and did just a quick Google myself, and there's actually a woman in Brunswick, someone separate from the person that, that has the allegiance to Six Rivers. And I can certainly reach out to her as well. She's got like 20 years of experience. So if you
Has
guys,
the town ever had to use one before?
no,
Or, I've been here not as long as this committee has been around.
yeah.
Not to my knowledge.
So,
Okay.
so I can certainly do that.
I would say yes, because I
Yeah.
think right now we're just trying to get an idea
Yeah,
of what the cost would be should we use a fundraising consultant.
right.
So
Yeah, I'll do that.
just work out.
Okay, I'll do that tomorrow. That's easy. Yep. Oh, sorry, you're the chair tonight.
No, you're still in.
Okay, so unless there's any other questions about that, we can move on to the next under funding discussion. And that goes to you, Mark. Allison put on the agenda, town options to consider. And I think basically the committee allowed questions about bonds and exactly how they work. Should we go that route?
So there's probably 2 ways the town can get, well, 3 ways the town can get money. One is taxes, but obviously the cost of this building is more than you can do like here. So, the next would be, a bond, and then the third way is a loan. I had someone reach out to me from one of the local community banks, probably about a year or so ago now. They said, hey, just to let you know, we're trying to do more in the market of municipal financing. And so if you're ever in the market for doing a project, talk to us. I'm on the board of the Two Bridges Regional Jail, and Two Bridges has a bond, which is almost paid off. But it also we went to upgrade the control systems and the cameras, and we actually did that with a loan from a local community bank after getting proposals from a number of them. That is more like your home mortgage, basically. You lay out what they would have as their security, and they give you quotes for rates and stuff. The bond, some of the stuff in Washington could affect, because there's talk about making municipal bonds no longer tax exempt, which means people, the investors, are gonna wanna get a higher interest rate than before if that goes through. But no matter what happens, kind of the bond process is, you have people come look at your finances, and good thing for Topsham is we owe a total of about $500,000 right now. So one of the things we would be favorable is that we don't have a lot of debt. Other things that they look at is what your surplus looks like. Right now, our surplus is at the maximum it can be. So the town, I think they would conclude, is quite well fiscally managed. That helps you get a better bond rating, which helps set your interest rate. So you pick someone that would write the bond, and then that person, basically, they pick a date that they put it out into the market, and they basically sell them and get the best rate they can for you. So it can change based on your credit rating of your town, and then how many other people are going to bond, what the demand is, how many people are looking for these bonds, and all that is in many ways unpredictable. You don't quite know exactly what your rate's gonna be to the day you go to sell it and stuff.
So there's a town employee that would write that request for the bond?
If we were gonna go to bond, it'd be a combination of our finance director and myself would work with, it might be the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, it might be some of the private people
Oh,
involved,
okay.
so.
All right,
So it's more of a process than, say, the mortgage, or the loan.
right.
But probably relatively early in the process, we do some comparison and see which one might give us the better interest rates. And for some reason, it looked like the loan might be better, then maybe we'll go that route.
So it's only one or the other?
I guess you can do some of both, but probably it's less cost effective to start paying professional fees, because you're gonna have to pay for the attorneys to do stuff too.
Yep. Gotcha.
It's probably better to pick one way or the other.
You mean either a bond or a loan?
Right.
Okay.
And bonds are typically 20 years or?
Could be as much as some or as much as 30.
Oh, okay,
So we could, well, that's negotiable.
right.
Can you do a combination of taxes and a bond, or taxes and a loan?
Taxes and anything I would pay for the bond. So, the annual payment will be something we'd have to figure into our budget each year, whatever the payment is on the debt. Certainly, if let's say the building isn't gonna be ready, but maybe it's a couple-year process. Before the building's gonna be ready, nothing says we can't save money in advance. Like, we've got money we put aside for capital improvements, like, when we replace the ladder truck, it's probably gonna be $1.5 million to $2 million or something. So nothing says we couldn't start saving money for this particular purpose, so that the more we save up front before it's built, or we start having to pay bills, the less we have to borrow later.
Mhm.
We have, I think 2 years from now, we have a TIF go away. That means we're gonna get another $500,000 in money coming to the town that we were been paying to the developer. So that money might be something, or some portion of it, that we can start setting aside towards the product, the community center or something. All that is obviously subject to first the select board and finance committee endorsing it, then eventually town meeting endorsing it. But there may be some things coming that would be, if we time it right, could help start paying for this without a big jump in our taxes. I also can't say a lot right this moment. About a week I can say more, because we'll have the agenda out for the first June meeting. But if things are as I hope they will be, the first June meeting is going to have a proposal that could bring about major new tax revenue for Topsham. And if it went through, there could be money to pay for a community center bond as well as do tax relief. So we might get something for everyone. So stay tuned to the select board agendas and about.
We said 11.
Are we still, is our goal, since this committee has a 1-year charge in the second phase, is our goal still to get all the information and potentially have a town vote in November?
I almost said something I shouldn't say.
I'm sorry.
I almost used the Lord's name in vain. Let me just forget the expletive and say, no. This would not be ready for a vote in November, I would say.
Okay,
What I would envision is, and I wouldn't want you to get your report done before June 3rd, June 5th, because June 5th may help provide some of the answers that are gonna make people more comfortable with the cost of this.
yeah.
That helps.
But
Yeah.
after, this report comes in, and then the select board needs to choose what path. I could see the select board saying, we wanna see how much can be raised, and do like a conditional fundraising thing.
Mhm.
So asking people to donate, but also promise to them for maybe donations over a certain amount or something. If for some reason this doesn't happen, we'll refund you your money.
Right.
So that people aren't nervous about giving their money to something that would not happen. On the other hand, once this money's sitting there in the bank account, it makes it a lot easier for the select board to put it up to a vote and say, okay, here's what we've already got for a down payment, and then here's what the financing will look like or something, and people have numbers to work with.
Okay,
But I can almost guarantee that, especially given the numbers involved, and that people are gonna, or the select was gonna be ready to put something for a vote in November saying, let's go spend.
that's too soon.
I mean, you even have to nail down the site better.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Mark's input is, I think, gonna make a big deal, because I think it may be that the fairground site is considerably more expensive to do than the Forsyth Field site, because Forsyth Field, you've got water and sewer basically touching the property.
Right,
The fairgrounds one's gonna have to be brought down Community Way and over, and it's just a longer run to move, and there'd be more road building for that one and stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, because I think what this group is probably gonna do is work with Mark, assuming the next phase, is now try to come up with a reasonable number, so to speak.
okay,
Whether it be by phasing things or picking which site. If the rail trail thing doesn't go through, which right now, the last I heard, that may change in 2 weeks, there's a short line railroad that wants to reactivate the Brunswick to Rockland corridor for freight and maybe some passenger stuff. They've also said that they want to potentially do the Topsham to Gardner or wherever the bridge is out corridor. And if they did that, then that takes precedence over and you can't even have to talk about the rail trail. It would be great.
right, yeah, yeah.
So that takes away a lot of the plus for the, or some of the plus
So,
anyway,
yeah,
for the fairground site, especially if it costs more than the
right,
Forsyth
right,
Road site. If that rail is not gonna happen.
right. There's a lot of moving parts, so it kind of makes it I feel it makes it a little more challenging for us, in that respect, until we get more of those answers.
Do we know when we are going to report back to the select board?
I think the original thought when this was all talked last fall was sometime early summer. But if it needs to be later in the summer, just because it takes longer, that's fine.
I think it's one of the agenda items, but I
Yeah.
think we need to pick a date and hold to it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's one of the ways that we're gonna get the information that we need in a timely manner
Right, to keep us on track.
to keep all involved on track.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mark or about bonds or anything?
No, that was very helpful.
That was,
Thank you, Mark.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, do we want to schedule another funding meeting at this point?
Did you say a Sunday meeting?
A funding meeting, sorry. Are we ready to schedule another one?
Probably be after
Or,
June 5th, right?
I don't think you are.
no, I don't think we are either.
I think it'd be more useful to do what you're talking about doing and maybe find a consultant or two and see what they might cost and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So we'll put that on hold then.
I think we should maybe put it on the agenda for the next meeting to
Yeah.
make a determination, because did we already pick our date for our next meeting?
Yes, that keeps us right in line for our next meeting, which is why we had this meeting, so that's
Right.
good.
Yeah, okay,
So I will keep that as an item for our next agenda.
Mhm.
okay.
Great.
I think just to go back quickly to are there any more questions on what you presented? at some point, when we are starting to look at numbers, it is helpful to me to have some sort of ballpark. Like if it's 40 million, what are we looking at in bonds and then tax? I don't know,
I gotta be honest, if it's 40 million and this thing I'm hoping is gonna come through and, or at least be able to start being pursued in early June, doesn't happen, it's gonna be a real hard sell because that would be a significant tax increase. If you look at a payment, so probably $1 million to $2 million a year, a bond, which would be almost 25% of our current budget.
well, Mark is starting to come back with numbers.
Right.
And options, so at the next meeting, maybe we can talk more about that. Because that's part of what we were looking, when we were looking at the latest C and D options, we were starting to talk about per square foot and things like that. So that information is coming, so it's important to talk about real figures.
I think if those are the real numbers, we wanna find ways to scale it back and stage it, because I don't think we're gonna be able to do it all at
Well, the
once.
moment we heard the number we heard for our perfect community center, that's when we automatically said we need to hire a fundraising person. Cause we're not just doing a bake sale for that.
And I think you could have a wonderfully successful financing thing, or fundraising, thing, probably get $2 million, you know?
Yeah.
So you'd still, if you've got a $40 million building, you look at 38 million through taxes, I don't see that flying.
Well, that's what I was thinking is at Six Rivers, they've had this fundraising consultant for at least 2 or 3 years now. And that, all they needed to raise was up to 10 million and they're not there yet. No, they got to almost 6 maybe, but they
I
also.
think that's what they wanted, I think they're right now.
6 they
maybe at
wanted?
3.8 or something.
Yeah, and they got quite a bit from something else, not their fundraising consultant, so
I also feel Six Rivers is a very different situation than
big time. It's
a community center.
very inclusive.
Okay. So number 6, confirm timeline for next update to present to select board.
So it sounds like, logistically speaking, the first select board meeting of June is out and we are not going to be ready for it. So I don't, I personally don't think we're gonna be ready in June.
Mm-mm.
No.
But do we want to pick a potential date that we can try to guide the report from Harriman to be ready by?
Do you have the dates of all the,
In general, is one every, the first and the third Thursday of every month.
I wouldn't mind him to be ready by that date
For July?
for June.
Are you discussing, I'm not following you, are you discussing when you're going to meet next?
no, we're discussing, we have to, make a presentation to the select board to update them where we are in the process. So we're trying to figure out when we're gonna be ready to do that and what select board meeting to do it at.
I mean, I guess I could see, if you just want to do an update to tell them what's going on and not be the final results of your report, then you can kind of do that whenever you want. But if you're waiting, if the idea of your next meeting is to give them the results, then, yeah, we just want, basically want to make sure it's complete. Because one of the things we're looking at is we want the cost for them, what the building's gonna be, because for them to make a decision, they need to know what the building's gonna cost. This idea of maybe how much this group or some other group thinks they can fundraise or willing to commit to doing, how long they want to fundraise. And then they wanted some indication on operating costs too, you know, how many people we think this is gonna need. From the numbers Steve was throwing out, I bet a lot of those fees for the swim team probably include the operating costs, you know, of the staff members, the coaches or whatever. And maybe some of it is the fees when Bath goes to Gardner to swim at theirs, they have to pay Gardner some money for that, similarly the other ones are good. But they wanted, for them to make an intelligent decision, they were asking to know stuff too, what how many staff members are gonna need, you know, we probably would need a dedicated janitor to the building, I expect.
We don't know who's gonna run it.
Yeah, So, we can move,
Cause that's another whole,
we could move,
Ballgame.
say, the rec department staff office over there, which will give some staff, if we move, the 2 positions we have there. But there's still probably gonna need to be like front desk person, probably almost 20, not 24 hours a day, it won't be open, but say it's open till 9 at night,
Mhm.
until 9 at night. Like I said, probably a dedicated cleaning person. Probably maybe some other coordinator for the building, that's maybe making sure all the things are organized and stuff. So it's, they wanna know basically what the operating, any of the operating costs are gonna be too, not just the capital costs.
So, when Mark Lee shared last time, he had his breakdown, like, do these 2 things and then committee review, and then do these 2 things and then committee review, and then do these 2 things and then committee review. When he had originally shown that to us, the idea was we were gonna be ready, all 3 committee reviews and present by June. And it looks to me like we're still in block 1.
Yeah.
So I feel like based on the fact that we haven't presented to anything to the select board since September, and we're gonna be getting pretty close to the 1-year mark to have a final report with the rate that we're going. I just wonder if it's worth having a preliminary update to the select board.
So go to them, say sometime in June,
Maybe the second June meeting.
maybe the second June meeting, give them an update. And then
Mhm.
have another meeting, whenever it may be, let's just say end of September with our final presentation. Is that what you're thinking?
I was thinking that because I feel that if we have dates that we need it to be held to, that's more likely we're gonna get the report that we need.
I think probably the select board would probably appreciate just a quick update too. So if they do have any
Right.
questions and, so everyone's on the same page.
If you want, I can pencil you in for the second June meeting for that.
Do you
June
wanna
19th,
shoot for that?
June 19th. The 5th
Well, that's
is,
the holidays.
Yeah.
The 19th is a Thursday,
I think it's,
It's the 17th.
the 17th is a
Juneteenth.
Tuesday.
oh, I thought you said it was on Thursdays.
well, they are Thursday, it just occurred to me when you said it was the 19th, that's.
It's a holiday.
Okay, so there's a holiday.
Yeah.
So I'll have to find out if they plan to meet that night,
Okay.
so, they may still meet that night, or not, I'll find out. So if they are gonna meet that night, I'll find out if they're substituting for another, or if they aren't gonna meet that night.
I feel like the way my brain is working right now is I feel like I need to know what a reasonable number cost will be.
Mhm.
Something that is, like, to me, that's how I do financing too, is like, just look at it from all angles, like, what is an amount that the town could take on that would not be unreasonable to present to the board? I don't want any sort of shocks value to happen. I want it to be like, oh, that might be something we could consider. So I don't know if that might be some thought or preparation from your side to help us understand where
Yeah,
it might be comfortable. What? Am I asking the hard questions?
No, I'm just, it's kind of
Yeah,
like when you're
it's funny, it's
shopping.
like, depends who you talk to.
Right, and it's kind of like, shopping for a new car. You're like, I think you kind of have in your head, like, I can spend X amount of dollars, but then you
exactly.
get there and you kind of get sticker shock, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I understand what you're saying, for
Yeah.
sure.
I understand what you're saying too. I also feel like there's so many variables that are still in the air. I think
Right.
it's
Mhm.
hard to say.
totally, yeah, it may be premature, but
I think in my vision, in my mind, is for this to get the wide support that we need to make it happen. It needs to have very little tax increase that can have someone point their finger and say, this is from the community center.
Yeah.
There's maybe a couple different ways to do that. One might be to time it in such a way that we take advantage of a TIF or 2 expiring. Although that would be enough to pay for the bond of 40 million. And another way might be time it in conjunction with this potential project, that if it happens. The other thing I've talked to Representative Macias about when I saw him the other day is that it'd be nice if the TIF statute was amended. Right now, it expressly says in the TIF statute, you can't use the town share to pay for a recreational building. It used to be you couldn't use it to pay much for any municipal buildings. They've started to expand it a little, across the way, like 15% of it, of the fire park was paid for with the Frost Street TIF, one of the Highland ones. But if we could get them to expand the statute more, then when someone comes to us and say, we're ready to redevelop the Corker parcel into something, we want a TIF, and would say, oh, we got a use for the town's money, that we could potentially, the revenue stream help pay for a bond. So I know it's frustrating to hear it, but as Allison there's a lot of things up in the air. I'm trying to think of different pieces that could be brought together so that there would be minimal tax impact from this. But I think we need to find a way to make it minimal.
Okay. Well, you always keep us posted, so.
Yeah.
And the hard part is, I think we also need to make it, if there is a huge price difference, the better spot is what are we calling that location?
I guess I'd be calling one of them the fairground site.
Fairgrounds.
Forsyth Field site.
The best location is the fairgrounds location, because it will have the least amount of pushback from the town. So we have to consider that we might have to lose a few things just to make it in the best location.
And if that rail trail is gonna come to pass, I really do believe that's the best location transportation wise too. Because if the rail trail happens, I expect that the bridge over Elm Street would go away, which would be nice for bike and pedestrian, because now we can have a road with bike lanes and sidewalk and cars, as opposed to pinching it there.
Yep.
And then you could also now have this bike/pedestrian trail where the Vertex was, we go right beside the community center, so they can ride their bikes, get there, then they can take it underneath to Tedford Road, and then Highlands. We had a meeting with them, they were redoing their plan for the Alzheimer's place they want to build out at Highland Grove. They don't have a date that they want to start, but they had to get the plan reviewed. And their vision long-term is to give the town Audubon Way, which we want. So then once that happens, and then once they finish, eventually probably the rest of Can-Am will become town. They'll have now public road that goes from the schools up Can-Am, down Village Drive, which is now public, cross Audubon, and then you could get to the railroad tracks to take this trail to the community center, or if for some reason we don't choose that part, we're working on sidewalks currently for Tedford Road, so they'd be able to get to Forsyth Road and stay for too.
Right,
But
right.
a lot of moving pieces, but if they all fit together right, it could be a wonderful site to do it.
And if we do that site, then maybe that's where it comes into play that we do those community center in stages.
Mhm.
But the thing that I think about that is just generating the revenue to be able to do it in stages too, right? Because you won't get any more bond money, right? You do one bond and you're not
Well,
gonna
you
be
can always
looking.
take out another, nothing says, you're not limited to one bond.
No, but I just think the optics of that would be not as favorable. I don't know, I could be wrong.
So right now, what I have written down is that we can communicate that we would like to have a follow-up meeting with the select board on their second meeting in June, depending on if they meet, where we will provide an update on where the community stands now, and that we'll aim for a final report update to be completed and presented to the select board in September.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And then I think we need to communicate those two dates to Marlene.
that gives us goals.
Specific dates.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Do you think the next meeting with him is sufficient to,
No, I think we have to do an email to him
Okay.
ahead of time.
you're gonna do that?
We can talk.
Okay. So moving along, confirmed table for town meeting, May 28th. Was that Pam that was gonna kind of make?
Well, I
sure
know
that
we
were-
had thrown it out there and I know Leslie had said that you'd be able to help with it.
Yeah, her and I.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do we think we need all of us there? Is that too many people? When it's kind of hard to know without him here, what
Right.
the thoughts were on that, but I know the idea was to just have a couple of us there to kind of be able to talk about the community center.
The meeting starts at 7.
Right.
No one will be coming in before 6, so you probably wouldn't want to start manning the table until even 6:15 or something.
Okay.
But you're welcome, there's room in the hallway, so you're welcome to have a table if you want.
Do we bring our own table or is there?
We might be able to get one from the school, when we haven't had the setup meeting yet, we'll have the setup meeting in the relatively near future. We could ask them to get an extra table.
I do have folding tables that I can pop in my trunk.
Whatever's, yeah.
Yeah.
whatever we need
I
to
know Pam had requested that more postcards get ordered,
Right,
so hopefully we have those.
I think she was planning on doing it, so as far as I know. she
Yeah.
did.
So would one of you wanna communicate with Pam, make sure we have everything we need, and then let the rest of us know if
Yep.
you want us
I'll
all
do
there?
I'll do it.
I'm planning to go to the meeting either way, so I'm happy to help
Okay,
if we want more people to be out there.
I feel like 2 or more is great. If people want to come, then feel free, but
Yeah.
I think 2 or more is plenty. You know, doesn't-
yep, okay, that sounds good. Review minutes from the May 7th meeting.
Well, it's gonna be hard if we don't have the printed copies. I have it.
I can pass mine along. There's just a couple things that were like typos that I found, so.
Okay. Go for it, I have it up.
So in number 8, follow-up action steps.
Yeah.
The third one down, Allison to add second,
Second one.
unless you are a doctor now.
Second, got it.
And, if you go down a couple more, requests for Mark to discuss the process for town bonds as compared to
Other
other
options.
options.
Got it.
And then the only other thing is, it's actually at the top of the second, move to accept the May 5th meetings. It says move to accepted instead of accept. So I guess we'll postpone then accepting them.
Little one, Allison.
Okay.
No, we
Number
can still
2,
accept them.
invitation to guests,
No, I don't know if I have.
present, probably should be guests.
No, we never
got
had
it.
those, whether they read them or not, anyway. True.
So do we want to wait till next time?
Did everyone at least read it?
I read them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read them.
All right, does anyone want to make a motion then with the changes?
I'm making a motion to, with the changes, to accept the motion. Oh my God, if I could speak.
This is why we don't do this.
This is, yeah, exactly. What Lynn just said, I made that
I make a motion to accept the minutes with the current changes.
changes.
I think that's.
And you just seconded it? Is that
I'll
what-
Is that a second,
Yes,
Leslie?
I'll
All right,
second
those
what
in
I said.
favor?
Yes.
How did I get taken over this meeting anyway?
You just pulled the agenda over,
It's
it's all
hard for
good.
us to do the Robert's Rules official stuff. That's why we're like,
You're
Okay.
rolling, it's
very
fine.
official.
All right. So, follow-up action steps, communicate to Mark Lee what the committee wants to review at next meeting. So Allison, what I'm hearing from you, we want to send him like 1, 2, 3, 4, this, and this type of.
I think we wanted to say, he wants to know if we want him to do C or D.
Mhm.
And we want him to pull numbers based on C and D. And so I think an email needs to be sent that says, hey, this is our timeline. We met today. This is our next meeting. This is what we want to see before the select board meeting. This is our timeline for the final review. And this is the C or D options that we would like to have more detailed estimate. And if we want to do it all or
I think there has to be 2.
Mark, do you have this to put up?
I have the extras too.
I was gonna say to put up on the screen.
No,
Oh, okay. I was just wondering if Sandra might
I'm just kidding.
like one.
I just have the one.
And I think Martin also wanted to know specifically about the pool, because we were open, we hadn't decided anything on it. So I think he wanted specific guidance on the pool, was what I remember as well.
My opinion on that is to, what's the word I'm looking for? To make it like Wiscasset's.
Yeah, yes, my opinion for the pool for Mark is I would like to understand how we could have it a competitive size where teams would want to rent it out and also have the therapeutic aspect to it as well.
Yeah, the recreational
Yeah.
slash therapeutic.
So I would
Right.
like to understand how he could incorporate both of those into our facility.
I will find out lane minimums and all that, so I'll get on that, but I
This one,
think,
oh, sorry.
I think what Mark had said was cast at 6,
I think
or you
Yes.
guys said it.
Yeah, this is 8.
So if we cut down 8 to 6, kept the square footage, we can't increase it anymore.
Okay.
But if you can get it down to 5 lanes, that would offer more room.
And would teams still wanna come
I was gonna
with
say,
fewer lanes?
would that make a difference?
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
we'll find out the minimum, but,
Okay.
I mean, they don't really have any other options.
I mean, my thought was to also, instead of having it, if you're looking at, well, first of all, we decided to have him do the 2-story, right?
I think we were all in agreement.
Not if we can't afford it.
I know, but we have to have that starting spot.
We do need to know the
because-
difference in the cost of those two
Right.
locations.
Because of the indoor walking track.
So-
So,
Do you wanna be caught up on this, what we're
I
talking?
think Pam told me. what-
Okay, good.
my thought was to turn the pool the other way to make it more accessible. I know that may be a minor thing, but to have it longer along the building instead of sticking out like that.
Yeah, I think design is one thing, but I think right now it's square footage is what he's using for numbers.
Right.
And if we're adding the recreational piece of that pool, it would go to one side of it, so it may end up being sort of down below.
Mhm.
If we're
Yeah.
just adding the
Yeah.
rec pool, so it's gonna kind of make it a square in that
Yeah.
way. More than a rectangle.
Should we tell him we want him to do his estimations on both
Both what?
C and D?
Absolutely.
I think so,
At the
and
very
I
minimum.
I
also,
think he's
yes.
trying to push us to pick one or the other, and then he's gonna build his report from there.
Oh, we can't really pick one or the other without knowing
we've
all
all
4
been
of them.
very clear that the walking track, this is one thing that's come up for the seniors, is one of the options is to have a walking track around the gymnasium. And
Around
so
the what?
gymnasium, so like on the Brunswick, at the Brunswick Rec, that's how it is the courts are on the inside and the people walk around the outside. But we've been all been very conscious of how that impacts people with different mobility issues. So the thought is to have a second floor, like at the Bath YMCA, where you can walk the track up above, you can see everything, you feel quite safe and no balls are gonna come through and things like that. So that's really one of the big differences between the C and D that we're talking about is, then my opinion too is that if we're going for either one, we need to then chunk it into pieces if we are gonna do this at different times. Because there was one option that he gave us that along the way where it ended up feeling very much like a rec center. To do phase 1 would have been a rec center.
Mhm.
And we've been all very clear along the way that we don't wanna do that.
Totally.
So
Right.
I think that part of this is how do we chunk it into pieces that's the first go is gonna feel really good. When that's done, people are gonna be psyched and they want the next phase. And that might be the pool, is the second phase. Or not, I don't know, or something, but we've gotta be able to chunk it up.
Right.
I can't imagine the cost of a 5-lane pool is that much different from an 8-lane pool, that it might not be better to save the pool together for a different phase and do the one that you want. I
Oh, I
can't,
agree, yes, I
you're
think,
gonna buy the pumps and, all
I
that
think the
stuff.
pool is all or nothing when you
Right.
put it in, for
I-
sure.
I,
Is that what you're thinking?
no.
You wanna
We have a different line of thought on that.
Believe me, I don't want a pool, I'm not gonna use a pool, but I know what the people want and they want the pool. If they don't get the pool, they probably don't want anything.
But you wouldn't put a 5-lane pool in and then change it to an 8-lane.
No, but I'm saying you can't kibosh the pool. The pool is, to me, what the town wants the most of. It was the #1 voted item. on all the surveys.
That's the reason I was so interested in joining the community center committee, was because our.
Oh, I'm all for it. If we can afford it, I would go gangbusters to do it.
I think it's
I just want it to be approved.
right, but I think, I don't wanna kibosh it because I think it will be one of our biggest moneymakers.
That and votes, I mean,
Yeah,
So then what would we
Bottom
pare
line is
down?
always money.
well, unfortunately, right, but if it gets voted to have a community center, you have to have the funds to run it and maintain it,
Gotta have it appeal to all ages.
and all ages, exactly.
I found that why with the swim teams, all the groups using the pool
Mm-hmm.
and the indoor walking area, people use that while their kids, so to speak, are using the pool.
Right,
I tend to
Because
think,
otherwise they're just sitting in the bleachers. This way they have something to do.
right,
I tend to think that everybody's right, and we can't, we don't have enough information. The pool is gonna be what makes us money. I think of the point that Steve made last time that said, everybody wants the walking track, but that's not gonna make us any money.
right.
So the pool's gonna make us the money, but I don't think we have enough information. Like what Leslie was just saying too, like if we take this one floor, story one, so what are we gonna cut out? The gymnasium? We can't do that.
Right,
So then you cut this whole half of the building and now you've lost the community center aspect of it. So we can't, I feel like we don't have enough information. So I feel like what our task to do right now is to tell Harriman what we need. And what we need is if he's asking us to make a decision between C and D, we need to say we're not going to. We want you to continue to do whatever estimates and whatever blueprints you're doing on both of them.
Yeah.
Because we don't have enough information to say whether we want you to do C or D, or if we would even be able to phase C or D yet. But that was my takeaway from what Mark was asking us and what we're saying, which I think we had a hard time saying in front of him.
I also think we need at least rough numbers from him on the two sites, you know, of which one.
right.
Because if it's 3 million more to do the fairground site, then maybe that's a reason to do the other site. But
the number we got, 3 million is not a big deal.
every 3 million adds up. But for us to be able, I think you're right, we can't really make these choices without better ideas of what some will cost and stuff.
Well, I would like-
We got those numbers last time. We got the numbers on what the difference is
They were
between C
very,
and D.
very,
Right.
And that this is how much the pool's gonna cost, but we don't know how much the pool's gonna cost at Forsyth versus Fairgrounds.
right.
So what I have written down right now is that an email would need to go to Mark Lee to say, these are the dates that we have tentatively scheduled for the select board. This is when the next TCC meeting is. We want some better information about the competitive size pool with the therapeutic and how would that incorporate into the design? Request to continue to move forward with both options C and D with the design elements, because we're not at a spot where we can make a decision between the two. And rough numbers of these buildings tied into the specific sites.
If there's a huge cost difference between raising the track and C, the only thing we lose is the fitness room, essentially. And some office spaces upstairs.
You say that again?
Are you allowed to use the track at Mount Airman?
Yes,
Those are,
yep, as long as you follow the rules. No dogs inside the track, no eating or drinking are permitted on the track or turf surfaces.
there are always rules, and if you wanna do it, you obey the rules.
So you're saying what about the fitness center?
Well, the difference between C and D is essentially we raise the track to go above, so people that are walking don't get hit with balls bouncing, right? And that added about who knows about what money, because we never got to see the difference really between the two. It was on a weird chart that was hard to read, in my opinion. And essentially, if you're going up to a second level, what's going on the second level is the fitness center above the conference room and mahjong area and stuff like that, right? So, and then there's also the lookout area attached to the upstairs track, which I envision to be quite an expense. So we may still be able to give everything, but not have it be $45 million. It just isn't perfect, right? Because the track upstairs would be perfect in our opinion.
And we can't do that as part two. Can't add a second floor someday, because it's gonna close it all down, I would think, in order to.
And you'd have to do all the structural stuff.
Yeah.
That's the hard part of all of this, is
That's
it's all
not-
gonna cost a lot more if we don't do it right away,
Exactly.
right? Even if we added a pickleball court after the fact, it's gonna cost more money
Right.
down the road.
Right, because with the second story, you've got the elevators, and I think he had, what, 3 staircases?
And then elevators come in, and then you have elevator maintenance added to that,
Yeah,
so when it comes down to money, second floor is gonna be a problem.
but we need, like Allison said, we need those figures and what they would be on each site to make a more informed decision.
Okay, that's
Are
what we're doing.
you good with sending him an email?
It's fine, yeah.
So you two can coordinate with all your notes and make sure you get everything in it to him? Okay. Call me. All right, is there anything else then that, I think that's probably plenty for him to do, right? And that'll take care of our needs.
It's 6:40 on a 45-minute meeting, so.
As a visitor, how did this all happen to come about? I mean, I thought, wow, community center, that would be great.
It evolved from
As a
the,
newcomer, but the background, the people that want a community center.
do you want to take it, Leslie?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it evolved from the Topsham Comprehensive Plan.
The what?
The Topsham Comprehensive Plan, that's how this committee originally originated from.
And that was an assessment of what do people dream and want in the town of Topsham? And it was identified that we need community. We need a place to go meet people. And then the select board put together a group of volunteers to start looking into it.
Okay,
This costs money. I don't know how I happen to receive it, but it hurt my interest. As I said, as a newcomer to the community, seeing it grow
absolutely.
and meeting people is important.
For sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
We already have the next meeting,
yeah, can you just remind us when it is?
June 9th at 5:15.
June 9th. Okay. Is there
Did you
any,
say June 9th?
June 9th?
And that was the one that was upstairs, is
Uh,
that correct?
That's what I have.
are we upstairs, Mark?
Um,
Or the people that are meeting down here might be done? Was that
Oh,
it?
yes, that's what it
Is
was.
that what it was?
They might be done or they might not.
Or it might or might not be done? Do you have any more questions of us before we adjourn for the night?
Probably many later on.
Well, feel free to write them down, and you may join us at any meeting.
And you post them.
On the town website.
looks like CPIC isn't here until 6, so.
Oh, until 6, so
There you go.
upstairs. Okay.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
apologize for interrupting. with
No,
my
no.
questions.
So we are upstairs next week?
Yes, yes. No apologize.
Certainly
Necessary.
interested.
We have other people come and we like to inform people, so. it's
Right,
good.
and it's great to have that feedback. So we appreciate you being here. All right, so 6:42, motion to adjourn. I got a second? Or a motion?
Can I get a?
Second.
In favor, second.